IVM.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 10 of The Fighting G.O.A.T. This is Arjun, aka Mystic Chipalkatti, with my partner Somesh, the Superhuman Kamra. What's happening, brother? Episode number 10, man.
Man, when you put a youngster in Acharika's cricket coaching and he finishes his first 10 matches, it kind of feels like that, that yes.
Acharika's cricket coaching, man.
Man, it feels like a mini achievement in itself. 10 episodes on the best podcast network in the country, IVM Podcast, with a show.
Absolutely.
Chips, man. And honestly, I'm so happy to do this with a great team and a great co-host like Mr. Arjun Chipalkatti.
Yes,
the reason why am I praising you is so we do not get into the prediction game this time.
No. For people who are going to be tuning in for round number 3, you guys can chill. Please do tune in, obviously, to round number 3. But this week, Mr. Kamra has taken a bit of a beating in terms of predictions. Team Chips is now mercilessly leading 5-0. In fact, at least Chal, he used to get a few right, a few wrong during the fight nights. But I think last weekend's card was just a massacre. He got everything wrong.
See, the thing is that my hairstyle is not matching with Prochazka's hairstyle, and honestly, there's some frequency issue out here.
His antenna is up, man. My Prochazka's hairstyle was reminded me of Goro from Mortal Kombat. Remember that character with that massive thing?
Absolutely.
And he was a devastating beast. And speaking of a devastating beast, we'll get to that fight in the week that was. The MMA week that was incredible. We had fights in boxing where Andy Ruiz Jr. went the distance for 12 rounds and decimated his opponent. But we're going to get to that. But first, let's start off with last weekend's UFC Fight Night in Vegas. Take it away, Mr. Kamra.
Man, it was crazy. In fact, the fight card was so exciting because, Chips, we got to see a disqualification, which was in the prelim card. We got to see a split draw. We saw a decision. We saw a TKO. And we saw a KO. And all card. Man, that was so exciting. It started with Merab versus Corey Stamen, which was a great fight. But honestly, I would like to move on to Sean Strickland versus Christoph Jordco. Man, was that a performance or what?
It was incredible, man. The first 2 fights of the night, like Somesh just mentioned, Sean Strickland is on his way up to becoming a very credible force in that middleweight division. He's got crisp technical striking. He's got great takedown defense. And it was overall a very solid performance. But we quickly move on to one of the most touted fights that started. It was just before the co-main event. Was Kotilaba versus Dustin Jacoby. And I think that was a great fight because Kotilaba is, if you've not seen this guy fight, he reminds me of an old school Phil Baroni back in the Bronx in the 90s. And he's one of those, punch first, ask questions later kind of fighter. So I don't think his game plans don't extend beyond 3 rounds. And in the Ultimate Guide to UFC, we were talking about it, and Mr. Kamra cracked this amazing joke saying it doesn't look like Mr. Kotilaba even listens to his corner. He's just so amped up.
He doesn't, he doesn't. In fact, Mr. Kotilaba was supposed to face Devin Clark for this event. Unfortunately, Clark pulled out and Dustin Jacoby, the ever so decorated kickboxer, stepped in. But man, Kotilaba from the weigh-in till the end of the fight is just on the pedal. Man, this guy doesn't stop. He actually reminds me of a very old school Diego Sanchez who comes in with that, the man who started the yes walkout.
No, dude, no. Yes. Before the yes. Remember when he was the nightmare?
Oh,
That
was
I'm talking
crazy.
post TUF finale, Clay Guida versus Diego Sanchez, where he went 250 miles an hour in terms of fighting for that first round.
Man.
Remember the madness? It was shit, man. You get tired looking at such fights. So when we talk about Ion Kotilaba, he just brings that kind of energy. He had a great game plan, but at the end, it's 2 opposing forces. Dustin Jacoby is in fact a very decorated kickboxer. He has great striking and kind of turned the tide towards the end. Sadly, we ended in a split draw, and which means that all 3 judges have decided that both fighters are equal in score. So it was 28-28. in the third round, with the first round being given to Ion Kotilaba and the second round being given to Jacoby.
Right. Right. So a split draw normally means that judge 1 gives it to fighter number 1, judge 2 gives to fighter number 2, and judge 3 thinks it's a draw. So if it's a unanimous draw, which means all 3 judges think that it's a draw. But honestly, a split draw is beautiful because, like, in fact, all 3 judges have not agreed with each other. True. And that's how close the fight was. In case you guys have not seen it, please tune in on Sony 10.2, Sony 10.3 and watch this fight under any circumstances.
It was mental, man. But Somesh, do you tell me something? Do you agree with that decision though? Because I mean, look, I think Ion had a first 10-8 round for sure. Because that could have been given a 10-8. One judge gave it a 10-8 round.
Right. One judge did.
Yeah. And I think that maybe, actually a draw is right. Because Jacoby also, it's not like Ion was getting pummeled or decimated, He was also fighting back.
Right. Well, in fact, Kotilaba's game plan is, it's not rocket science. He comes in and that first round is where he's going 100% for 5 minutes. Yeah. And, he tends to slow down. But at the same time, Dustin Jacoby was such a good fight. It was such a good matchup because Jacoby is used to, weathering the early storm, and he performed better in the second round and even better in the third round. So honestly, I absolutely agree with it. The first round was hands down to Kotilaba. It could be a 10-9, 10-8. That's a little debatable.
10-8, man. He got like 7 takedowns.
8 takedowns. Yeah, you're right.
8 takedowns.
You're right.
I mean, 8 takedowns and some good ground and pound against the cage. I mean, that warrants a 10-8.
But what happens, I personally feel that some judges look at also progression. So, as the fighter weathers the storm and becomes better, that is when some judges lean towards that aspect, saying that in case this guy has to go for a 5-round fight, he may have beaten Kotilaba. So again, it's just my view. I'm not putting my fingers on anyone. It's just my personal view. Correct. That there are some judges, like Tony Weeks, that looks at progression, and that is why they lean more towards. Yeah, the people's champ.
I mean, when judging started in the UFC, firstly, everybody has to understand that MMA is judged on the same rules as boxing. It's a 10-point scoring system. There are 3 rounds or 5 rounds, depending if you're championship or regular fights. And these are slightly older rules. So the first judges that came into the UFC was so, like, if somebody got a takedown and did nothing with it, they would easily automatically get a 10-9. And a lot of fighters used to use that rule, to their advantage. Right. But come on, so it. Yeah, so, man, that was such a wicked fight, though, that took place. But we'll now move on to, what I thought was a very, very, very hype fight, a very weighted fight, because this guy called Giga Chikadze from a small country called Georgia. And if you don't know where Georgia is, Google, because it took me a while to also find it. It's a tiny, tiny country.
Not the coffee, It's country.
It's a tiny, tiny country in Europe, and it's a lovely country. I saw the pictures, and being in lockdown, even right now, Vasai Lake looks very good. So, maybe I'm a little skewed with my vision. Come on, man. Who isn't sick of this lockdown? So we saw Giga Chikadze take on a very, very experienced grizzly veteran from the WEC days. He's been one of my favorite fighters, Cub Swanson. And when you talk about Cub Swanson, it's my heart lights up in a very different way when you talk about the legends. Right. And especially the guys, the lighter divisions weren't taken seriously in the UFC till about 2009, 2010.
Right.
And it was only when WEC got absorbed into the UFC was when, guys like Aldo, guys like Uriah Faber, Cub Swanson, all these guys came over and created such a bang.
Man, those guys were violent. Those guys were violent days. But but speaking of someone like Giga, man, as you rightly said, talent coming out of small countries like Georgia, training at King's MMA versus veterans, 39-40.
Who trains at King's? Who's the coaches at King's?
Rafael Cordero.
Oh my God. The man who made Junior Dos Santos' hands, literally. The guy who trained JDS. Oh man, he's amazing. Yes. Great boxing coach.
Well, the man who trained Mike Tyson for his comeback fight.
Oh, you mean the guy who got him in shape?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to go to Rafael Cordero. I think it's time. I'm going to give him a call. But anyway, no, enough of joking around. Giga Chikadze though came in. He's coming in on a 7-fight win streak. Somesh, he came in on 7-fight win streak. Right. And a lot of people were sometimes strikers in the UFC don't, have a lot of, either they get overhyped or they get looked past. And do you think that after 7 wins, 7 wins is a great record, and that too winning most of his fights in the first minute and a half? I mean, what does that say about a fighter, man?
Man, it just shows the kind of striking abilities that someone like Giga Chikadze has, and especially from a country like Georgia, where their background is usually in Sambo. There's this guy who comes out with an absolute kickboxing, clinic, and he dispatches a 40-fight veteran, Cub Swanson, someone who's not very older than him. Giga is about 32, Cub Swanson is 37. But there's vast difference in the number of fights. I think Giga is 12-2 or 12-3.
Yeah.
And Cub Swanson is closing into 40 fights.
That's mad.
But having said that, another first round finish, 1 minute, 3 seconds. Cub Swanson, yes, he's a veteran, but I would still like to see Giga, face a top 10 guy. Because, it could be a situation where Cub Swanson is on his way out, a lot of injuries, his liver has already been damaged, a couple of shots there and he would kind of go down, similar to what we saw with, someone like RDA, someone like
Matt Brown, man. His body is
Matt
broken.
Brown,
you can't knock him out, but his body, it crumbles now.
Yeah. So Giga Chikadze, man, kudos to him. I think
what a
right
kick
now,
that was, dude. What a kick that was.
If I'm not mistaken, it's an 8-fight win streak at the moment for him.
Now, yes.
And, as we spoke on the Ultimate Guide to UFC, I would love to see him versus a wrestler. Maybe somebody in the top 10.
Zabit.
My pick was Zabit. As always. But let's see where this goes. But overall, a great co-main event. I cannot wait to see this guy again. I'm sure he's going to come back in 2021 itself, because he was, he didn't take too much damage. And
dude, he took no damage. He took zero damage. I mean, the fight started. He landed a couple of inside leg kicks. And the first hard shot that he threw to the body of Cub Swanson was a liver kick. Now, liver kick is basically right on your right-hand side of your body. And it lands in a way. And liver shots are not like head shots. Head shots are immediate pain. Liver takes about 2 or 3 seconds to kick in. So you get kicked. And you literally in your head are 3, 2, 1. Ow.
And then the body shuts down slowly.
And it just gets numb. It becomes numb. You become paralyzed on one side. Man, it hurts that much. And
that's crazy.
I mean, Somesh, we talk about body shots. I mean, it's like when Jose Aldo punched Little Heathen.
Yeah.
Jeremy Stevens.
Jeremy Stevens, yeah.
And when the shot heard around the world, when Alistair Overeem liver kicked Brock Lesnar. Oof. And Brock Lesnar is a 280-pound gorilla Goliath. How hard was that kick that shut down Brock, man?
Well, also what happens with a liver shot is that, because you have a floating rib out there, and the floating rib can crack.
Yeah.
And in that situation, you do not know exactly, is it the floating rib that is cracked or is it a liver shot? Either which ways you're going down. There's no, there's no question about that. But man, what, those who do not know how this feels, I would be very, very happy if you meet us somewhere and let Chips give you one of those nice, crisp,
I call it massaging the liver. Massaging the liver. No, man. If you have not been hit to the body, I suggest you protect your body at all times. Believe me, body shots, I honestly will go as far as saying that body shots are worse than getting hit in the face.
Absolutely. I would rather get hit on the face and get knocked out instead of getting a body shot.
No, because when you get hit to the body, your cardio keeps depleting because you're losing air. You lose air. It knocks the wind out of you. When somebody says it knocked the wind out of me, it literally knocks the wind out of you.
See, exactly like that.
Just like how I'm losing my voice now.
But you know what, Chips? In fact, this gets me to a personal, incident. Like in a kickboxing match many, many years back, could be like, I don't know, maybe 16, 17, 20 years back, when I had got kicked to the liver, it kind of hurt me. But, you obviously have that adro in you and you're still pushing forward and stuff. But next day, let me tell you, I could not sleep on one side. I could not cough and I could not laugh.
I believe you completely. It's the same thing that happened. I remember when I was in a clinch position, I was dirty boxing.
Yeah.
And this guy got me with 2 hard shots to the liver and then separated with a knee up the middle. So the knee was right at the sternum and the shots to the body. It took about 7-8 seconds for my body to completely shut down, but it shut down instantly.
Right.
You can't do anything. The wind is out. You're already in pain and it's hurting. And I remember, you get that feeling when you breathe in.
Yes.
You take a deep breath, your body, your ribs, it hurts so much. It's such, I don't know. I really don't know why we do this, to be honest.
It's called sweet pain.
It's the sweetest pain, man. And if you don't train, just go out and train. Believe me, it's a pain that you can get used to.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know what, people who kind of get tattoos, they're like, we like that pain. So, in a very similar situation, we like this pain. And in fact, I'm so happy that from our team, Deep, Rishikesh, they all practice Muay Thai, they all practice karate.
Man. But, speaking of devastating shots and, being brutally hurt, we move on to our main event of the evening. Where we were waiting for the second fight of Jiří Prochazka, who's a former Ryzen fighter. He's a Ryzen champion.
Right.
Came in and took on a legitimate top 3, top 5 fighter in Dominic Reyes.
Right. In fact, Dominic Reyes was unbeaten, 12 fights unbeaten in the light heavyweight category in the UFC is no joke. This guy had 2 back-to-back championship fights. He was preparing for 2 5-rounders, and man, 1 5-rounder was versus John Jones. The following 5-rounder was versus the Polish powerhouse Jan Blachowicz. And I personally was expecting a performance of a lifetime because, after you gain this kind of experience, you obviously come back a much better fighter. However, Chips, what you rightly mentioned is that people don't stay the same after they fight John Jones. So please elaborate slightly on that. The knockout of this maniac Goro.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is that when you face fighters like John Jones, when you face fighters like Khabib Nurmagomedov, when you face fighters like GSP, when you face fighters who are so superior in that sense. They've been superior. They've been on top of the hill for so long. It's a different elite class. Like when Anthony Smith, Lionheart, took on John Jones. If you look at Anthony Smith, he's a huge guy. He's an imposing
big guy. Yeah,
he's a brutal fighter. But John made him look amateur. There was a scene, there was a time where in the 4th round where John was just hitting him to the body and Anthony Smith didn't even turn over, didn't do anything. He couldn't do anything.
Absolutely.
And Dominic Reyes fought the fight of a lifetime against John Jones. He hurt Jones. He took him down. It was a very close split decision victory that Jones pulled out. And it was one of the toughest fights Jones had, after which Jones decided to move up to heavyweight. And after that, he came back against his comeback fight against Jan Blachowicz, where he got brutally knocked out in the 2nd or the 3rd round, if I'm not wrong. And I think a knockout like that after a grueling loss can affect you psychologically. It does.
Absolutely.
Getting knocked out,
it's so funny. It's crazy because you're right. I think it was round 2. I just pulled up the stats. 2, right? It was round 2 and it was in Fight Island. And that happened in September 2020. His nose broke in September 2020. And 6 months later, it broke again.
With the first shot with Prochazka through.
Yes.
Coming to that was Dominic Reyes is such a great fighter, such a great former, NCAA collegiate wrestler. He's a former football player. He's got all the skills to back it up. But when Jiří Prochazka is one of the special fighters, the fluidity that he comes in with, the angles that he brings, the footwork that he comes in with. And what is funny is that he's got such a solid chin on him. He took every shot that Dominic Reyes threw at him. All but one which slightly wobbled him.
Yeah.
Slightly wobbled him. But he took every clean shot. And you could see, it's in a fight, one of the most scariest things that, any fighter will say is that when you've thrown your hardest shot and the guy is still coming at you, is one of the worst things in the world.
You have no answer.
You just don't know what to do.
In fact, both his fights, Prochazka's fights in the UFC have won him.
I think the first one was Volkan Ozdemir.
Yes, it was. It was a brutal 2nd round knockout. And, in fact, Ozdemir was wobbled in round number 1 itself. He just kind of got saved by the bell and came back. And I don't think it was in the first minute also that he
couldn't recover, man. When you get wobbled that badly, that 1 minute break between rounds is, they'll ice your neck. They'll throw water on you. They'll try and get your breathing right, but you do not recover.
Absolutely.
Once you start seeing dark around the sides of your eyes, when you start feeling that light go out, That's the beginning of the end.
Right. But Chips, 32 professional fights, 28 wins, 3 losses, and still having that chin on him. I mean, what is with these Polish people? We saw the same.
Hey, Czech Republic.
Czech Republic, sorry. What
you can say what are with these Eastern European people?
Man, these East European guys, Jan Blachowicz took Israel Adesanya's best shots, moved forward and closed the show. The same is happening with Prochazka, where, man, 32 fights, people are normally, like they have that damage on their face, they are still kind of, getting to the end of their career. And this gentleman is not even 30 years old.
It's mental, man. I mean, Prochazka is the old school fighters. I remember I was talking to somebody and somebody told me, dude, remember this guy called Alexander Schlemenko? Remember this guy? Alexander Schlemenko, former Bellator guy, fought in Europe all his life, and he's one of those Russian hardcore guys. Tough guy.
Yeah.
He's 35 years old with 59 wins and 16 losses. 59 wins and 16 losses. So the record of these guys, they fight they do so many kickboxing fights and so many fights in the minor leagues before they come. They're so weathered by the time they reach.
Man.
And you saw that in Prochazka's the way he moved. And like Somesh was talking on the Ultimate Guide to the UFC, he was like, he was offered a spot in the UFC a couple of years ago.
Right.
But he said no to it. He said, I wasn't ready. I wasn't mentally ready. I wasn't physically ready. And today he looked like in his last fight against Dominic Reyes, he looked like a world beater. The way he came in and that elbow that he landed, the way he knocked out Dominic Reyes, was hard to watch. You guys should Google it.
Man,
it was rough.
That was crazy. I mean, and such a great performance by someone who's 28 years old and got so many fights under his belt. Man, kudos to him. I don't know. See, a lot of people, in fact, like messaged me because I said I don't think he's ready for the big stage as yet, because I still feel he needs a few more fights. Yeah. He needs a few fights under his belt, because honestly, see, I think a fight versus Prochazka versus Glover Teixeira would be great. I don't see him facing Jan Blachowicz as yet. I think it would be too much of a punishment. Sometimes.
I disagree, but I disagree, bro.
Sometimes when you skyrocket someone so quickly, maybe you're burning out talent.
No.
That is my take. I mean,
take it.
People can kind of disagree. I completely, know that listen, it's not that my words are last say. It's just my thought about the fact that if he gets 1 or 2 more fights, maybe somebody Teixeira, maybe Alexander Rakic, and then put him, versus someone like Jan Blachowicz, maybe that would be a really good fight.
Maybe. See, the thing is that I think he's beaten a top 3, top 4 fighter, and I think that warrants a title shot. Now, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's going to wait for 7 months. Because Jan is going to be taking on Glover Teixeira in 2 months now? 2 months. By the time it'll be July. And after Jan, whether win, lose or draw, either Jan or Glover will take another 2 months after that to face. And we're talking potentially a return for Prochazka in October.
Right.
I think is too far away. He's going to fight for sure before that. But it's, I think he's ready. I really think he's ready. Because sometimes fighters have been leapfrogged. Anderson Silva, when he came to the UFC, had 1 fight. He faced Chris Lieben, knocked out Chris Lieben, and took on Rich Franklin and won the belt in his second fight.
But, that time was a little different because those guys were fighters. And honestly, I see Prochazka as a fighter. I don't see him.
He's a mental man.
I don't see him as a new age guy who's looking here to come and do business and stuff like that. So, it was so beautiful to see when the reporter asked him in the post fight, what are you going to do with all the money? He said, I'll just buy a car and I'll crash it.
I don't know if that was a dig to John Jones, because John Jones, when he was 22, crashed his Bentley into a pole.
But what he also said is that deep down inside, he's a guy who, lives in the forest in a small house and just focuses on his game. I mean, honestly, these East European old school guys, I feel, are the future of MMA, because it's the original love of the sport that's coming back. Man, I cannot wait to see this guy. I hope, Chips, you're right again, because I want this guy to have a title shot. However, I don't want him to lose, because I see him as somebody that can hold on to that belt.
Agree.
However, there is somebody else that's holding on to his belt that is coming on in round 2. A very special guest on this episode. from One Championship, the show, the Apprentice One Championship edition. We have Niraj Puran Rao with us.
Wow.
In action, the only Indian guy who's representing our wonderful nation in this beautiful show called The Apprentice One Championship Edition for a $250,000 contract and a chance to work in one of the biggest MMA organizations in the world. So, guys, stay tuned. He's joining us right now in round 2. I look forward, and Chips looks forward on seeing you on the other side.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We'd like to thank the sponsors on the network this week, Cred, Cied, TheWholeTruthFoods.com, and PayPal. We really appreciate your support. So this week on Cyrus Says, Cyrus had some interesting guests. Gayaz Irani was on to talk about his new Netflix film, and Mayur Tekchandani has made a new coffee table book about the city of Mumbai, which he came to discuss on the show. On the Wire Talk, Siddharth Bhatia was joined by Dr. Ali Khan Mahmoodabad to talk about the Muslim community's issues during these thorny times. On The Habit Coach, Ashton Doctor is joined by Sonia Jas to talk about the importance of fitness and why this is a great time to begin a journey to good health. The Simplified Gang has reunited and they discuss the hue and cry around the European Super League that was eventually just dropped after 2 days. On Shunya One, Shilith and I are talking to Gurubat from PayPal India. We talk about fintech, the future of digital payments, and a whole lot more. Really deep and interesting conversation about PayPal, its plans in India, and what kind of hiring they're looking to do. On The Millennial Athlete, Tanvi and Shlok were joined by sport and performance psychologist Dr. Shri Advani to talk about mental health for young sports stars. And I just want to again mention some of our cricket shows. The IPL season is on and you should definitely check out Edges and Sledges. And we also have a Hindi show called Khel Niti. Do check that out as well. And with that, let me get you back to your show.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very interesting guest for round 2 of episode 10 of the Fighting GOAT. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Niraj Puran Rao from the Apprentice One Championship version. Niraj, welcome to the show.
Niraj, welcome.
What's up, Niraj?
Guys, I am so grateful to be here with you all today. Arjun, Somesh, I have already checked out your the podcast and the energy that you guys bring and the sheer content, the way you explain MMA, the combat world. It's so engaging and definitely looking forward to a very interesting conversation today.
Thank you so much, man.
That's awesome.
It's incredible. It's so good to hear from, that the sport is growing around the world. And it's so good to see, organizations that are coming to India. And, we're going to have a really fun show for you guys. So everybody tuning in, we're going to learn a lot. And I'm just waiting for Mr. Kamra, a.k.a. the Superhuman, to take this forward.
Man,
let's go, Somesh.
Guys, I am so excited to talk to the only Indian on one of my favorite shows, which is The Apprentice. The one before this was with Donald Trump. But now we have a version with mixed martial arts in it. And trust me, it airs on Republic every Saturday at 10 p.m. I cannot wait for this. Niraj, I know you really well. Arjun knows you really well. But let us talk to the fans and all the people of India. Tell us, who is Niraj Puran Rao?
Guys, just being very brief about my background, my origins, if you mind. I come from a Navy background. My parents, both my mother as well as my father, they're from Navy. So discipline has been very integral to whatever I do in general. I mean, the entire approach, whatever, it's very systematic that way. And most of my schooling has been in Pune. So you can say that I'm a hardcore Punekar that way. And go Pune, missile power.
I was going to pop in and say Chitre Bandhu, but chalo, let it go.
That's a big rivalry, Chitle Bandhu and the other one. But coming back to what I was saying, so in my childhood, I mean, the only goal per se that I had was to become a professional soccer player. I mean, that was all I dreamt about. And my school, my college, until my undergrad, that is the only thing that I used to do, like football. And I was very lucky enough to have a family which supported me financially and morally in my pursuit of becoming a professional player. And I have been very grateful that I was always given that opportunity and I performed. When I did get an opportunity, I was always able to perform. And I played football for almost 3.5 years in Pune. And I would say that just playing any kind of sport, any sport, it gives you so many advantages in the real world, I would say. I think we'll be discussing a little bit on that later, but just touching upon it, so many of your values, so many of your life lessons, I feel any kind of sport, every sport, in fact, teaches you that in a crash course way. But yeah, and education wise, I've done my MBA in sports management from Symbiosis International University, and I'm like a end-to-end sports guy. I mean, I have literally spent. I'm 26 now. I think 24 years of my life has only been hardcore in and around sports, either on the field or off late on the management side of it.
That's fantastic, man. That's fantastic. What a perfect way to describe what you've done so far.
Inspirational.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to see there aren't a lot of former athletes that go into the management aspect of things. And it's so good to see former athletes are now stepping into that field, which brings me to my next question. What did you feel when you knew you got the opportunity? Having been a former footballer, you were briefly into bodybuilding, you're now in the management side of things. What do you feel about going to be working on a reality show called The Apprentice, which is connected to one of the biggest mixed martial arts organizations in Asia called One Fighting Championship? So what are you feeling, going into such a big endeavor? It's a huge deal.
In so many ways that I feel that all of what happened was preparing me for this opportunity. By the way, this is not my first reality show. There was another one in 2017, a reality show in India called India's Asli Champion, which was hosted by Mr. Sunil Shetty.
Yes, I remember this.
Yeah. So I'm the winner of that competition. And, that was again such a funny story. I was not at that point, this is 2017. I was not at all very much interested per se or having much knowledge about the entertainment industry per se. It was just sports for me. But again, through sports, this new field altogether opened up, and I think it was very serendipitous the way it happened. And that happened. It was not a very big reality show, but it did give me a taste of how things work in that field. I mean, the shooting hours, the format, all of that. And then when one championship came and I came to know, so actually a college professor of mine sent me the link on LinkedIn. And he was very casual. He said that, Niraj, you've done some reality show, right? And you've done some sports also. Probably this is something for you. Just check it out. And I'm like, okay.
That's incredible. I like I like the way you use the word serendipitous. That's my word, man. I use that word on this show so many times. I love the fact that you used it because I think it absolutely describes what you're saying perfectly.
Thank you, man. I mean, see, these are not something that you can very deliberately prepare for. You can only give your best in whatever you're doing. And if an opportunity arises, then the question is, are you ready to take it? And this particular opportunity, when it came to me, I was ready. I mean, if I was not having my background of whatever I've done, even if this opportunity was in front of me, I couldn't make much of it. But that's what, man. I'm a very big believer of, just keep figuring your way out, keep working, and things eventually pan out. Well, you have to be sincere in your work. I mean, I'm very huge on work ethics. So, but coming back to your question, Arjun, Somesh, when I came to know about the auditions, and the first round of the auditions was to submit a video audition as to why you think you are a good fit for being on the competition. Mm-hmm. And I made my video. This is at the thick of lockdown. I'm talking about April 2020-ish, around that time.
Wow.
I mean, lockdown has just started. I mean, we don't even know what's coming our way. And I'm like, okay, let me just within my house itself try to make a video which is a little cheeky, a little humorous, but at the same point just showcases my skills, my abilities as a candidate. And then for I think 3 or 4 months there was nothing. I got nothing, and honestly I forgot about it because so many things happening in the news, lockdown is so new for us, work from home. So many completely forgot about these auditions that I had given earlier in the year. Then around August-ish is when I got an email from them that I have been selected. And then in a matter
Wow.
of 3 weeks, I had some 3 to 4 interview rounds. And yeah, man, I think August 23 was when I had a Zoom with Mr. Sityodtong, the man himself, where he told me that,
Oh, wow. That's
Niraj,
incredible.
congratulations.
That's
Oh
incredible,
man,
man.
that's
Incredible.
inspirational again. As I said, that's inspirational. So, Neeraj, the next question comes from me. We all know about the show Apprentice that was hosted by Donald Trump. It was a pure business
Oh,
show.
yes. I
And
remember that.
it was a chance to work with the man himself, the former president Donald J. Trump. However, this version of The Apprentice is a little different, where there's a showcase of physical strength as well as mental strength. So could you run us through as to how the show was different and how did you cope up with those pressures?
So, very honestly, I got selected. Like, I got an intimation that I have been selected. And now I'm thinking to myself, what I'm trying to figure out what they're going to do. I mean, it's a sports business reality show. I know sports, I know business, but I don't know what happens when it's like sports and business. So I'm
Right.
like, what the hell are they going to ask us to do? Like, the candidates, what the hell? And very honestly, till the time the shooting started, trust me, it was almost like from when I got to know that I'm on the show to the actual shoot, it was maybe 1.5 to 2 months. The entire 2 months, I was trying to rack my brains that what might this be? What might this be? And I'm going to the gym, I'm preparing, I'm reading business case studies. But till the end moment, I couldn't crack it that what exactly is it going to be?
Man, that's incredible.
And
It's so funny that you're a cheeky guy. He's giving you information without telling you anything, and I like that. So, and I don't want to, I don't want to spoil the fun for everybody, but I have to ask you, throughout the course of the show, and I don't want to mention any mentors in specific because I want people to find out for themselves who was on the show. Joel St. Pierre. But I just want to know is what did you feel going in and meeting such people? What did you feel being surrounded by such stalwarts of both the sports and the business industry? How did that help you mold yourself as a person throughout these 2 months?
One thing was that most of these individuals, these mentors from either the MMA world or the business world, at the end of the day, they are such simple people. I mean, simplicity is the thread which connects all of them. Some are a little introvert, extrovert, different personalities, but undoubtedly that all of them were so simple, like very like I'm talking to you, Arjun, I'm talking to you, Somesh. Literally, this is how I was talking to GSP. It's like, yeah, man, what's up? Where are you from? What are you doing? I'm like, yeah, this is. He's like, yeah, okay.
You got to say it in the accent. No. Hang on. You have to say it in the accent. When you talk to GSP, I'm sorry. Hang on. We've spoken to a million, well, not a million, let's not over exaggerate, but we've spoken to quite a few superstars in the MMA sports world. And I have a whole segment that I do accents, so it's, come on. If you hung out with GSP, anybody who has talked to GSP loves his accent. And whatever, when we read, even if you read an article where GSP has been quoted, you can't help but read it in his voice. To tell you the truth, Niraj, your performance in the show was very good.
yeah. Because he's got very interesting lineage. I mean, he's a French Canadian, so of course the way he talks, he's got this. When he talks, when he walks, it's got a jumpiness about him. It's very casual, it's very cool. But you know what? When he's in the cage, it's a totally different person.
Oh yeah,
very true.
You get to understand even how these people are outside and what their perspective. One of my main agendas of talking to any one of these was I wanted to understand what's their mindset is. I mean, when it's game time, what is their approach towards things? Because these are individuals who have, by any standards, achieved everything in their life. Everything, whatever outside world could give you, these people have not just reached but overachieved. So my entire agenda was like, even if I can have a little bit of the understanding of their mindset, it's going to help me out in the long run.
Very true. That's so true. Niraj, in fact, my next question to you is a very passionate and a very emotional question, because I want to ask you that as the only Indian businessman on the show, you have maybe 1.3 billion people looking at you. So apart from COVID, to be honest, people are looking at The Apprentice right now. How much of a pressure does that put on you? And yes, how close are you to winning this show?
Oh.
The second question, you will have to find out for yourself.
Yes,
but definitely I can answer the first one.
Of course. Hey, yaar, aise mat bol.
I feel that, what, guys, this is another thing that sports teaches you, to perform under pressure. I mean, you could be injured, you could be not in the right state of mind, you could be coming from a series of losses. There could be 100 things that are happening in your professional or private life. But when it's time to perform, you fucking perform. And that is something that I have taken from my professional days. And I emulate that in whatever I'm doing. And, in terms of pressure, I would say more than pressure, it's a place of privilege. It's a place of responsibility to be the only person representing your country. And the country being India, 1.3 billion people. So, of course, I was very clear from day one that this is an opportunity where I get to showcase not just myself as an individual, but also as a person or a citizen of India and the image of India on a global level. That was my entire approach. That was how I was conducting myself, as well as approaching everything. Because it's very easy to get stereotyped on an international level.
Very true.
Just a little bit careful as to not playing to the Indian stereotype. Like, one of the stereotypes is it that when Indians say yes, when Indians say no, it's the same thing. It's like, yes.
Oh man, I know the feeling. I know the feeling. I mean, it's one of the most common things that we Indians have faced when we go abroad, where we, are constantly being labeled as people who do this as well, and it's fucking annoying. I hate that shit. I don't do this stuff, and most Indians don't. Most Indians I know don't do it. So, but coming to another part of my question, Niraj, was that it's so funny. It's considering what you've done in your life and the background that you come from. There is a deep-seated humility that exists within you, where it's a big deal to be on a huge reality show, especially The Apprentice, and the first of its kind in Asia, targeted. It's on such a big channel in India. Like Somesh said, you've been watched by billions of people, and the pressure that it puts. What do you feel that now that you've finished the show, do you feel what lessons have you taken from an experience such as this? What lessons have you taken from an experience such as this? And where do you see yourself going forward in terms of this in the future?
From a sheerly business perspective, I would say that I'm very early in my journey on the business front. I mean, I recently got graduated some 2 years back, and I've been working for some organizations. I've been involved in a couple of startups. So overall, I am very early in my career as a business person. And, in the competition, the sheer profile of the contestants, there is somebody who sells private jets for a living. There is somebody who is a recruiter for Silicon Valley. There is somebody who's a tech head of a Asia firm, a pan-Asia firm. So, just competing against them, it's a very big boost. Just even being able to sit in that room, it was so surreal at times. Just taking a moment back and saying that, what the where the am I sitting with these individuals? So, very humbling, and of course, definitely, man. I think I'm very grateful for all these opportunities that have come along. But you know what? I feel that I love to work, man. I personally am a workhorse, and वो बोलते हैं ना, काम से बहुत प्यार है. I'm not really.
Well, काम से बहुत प्यार था, and currently we have Mr. Rao just frozen on our screens here. But that being said, no, Somesh, you can tell from the way he speaks. You can tell from the way he speaks how he's so passionate about about the entire show, what he's done. And I think it's going to be an incredible series to watch it. It's going to be live on Republic TV, The Apprentice. comes out after a couple of years. I think the last Apprentice, Somesh, ended in 2017.
Niraj is back
Hi,
with
guys.
us.
I'm so sorry.
No worries. You're back.
Hota hai, it happens.
You're back. You're looking lean and you're looking mean.
Yes.
It's all about the lighting. Trust me, it's all about the lighting.
It's all about the lighting. You don't have to tell me that, buddy. I meant it because I'm a photographer. Yes. Mazak udane ka aur koi is Somesh na bas first person to laugh. But let's not forget, Team Chips and Team Kamra. We also, Niraj, we have this healthy rivalry that's been going on there. We constantly compete with one another in our predictions in our sport. And clearly, Somesh has some sour grapes, which is bhadas nikal raha hai in these small opportunities that he gets.
Well, that gets me to the next question. Now that all the business talk is done, Niraj, you are from a traditional Indian family. You were apparently born in Israel, if I'm not wrong.
Yep.
Wow. You moved to Pune. So if I just see your profile, you're 26, you're on a big reality show, you have achieved a lot, you've played professional sports, you're into bodybuilding, you've graduated from business school. So, have your parents ever said, beta, shadi kabhi kar rahe ho?
I knew this was coming.
I mean, you know what? It's not really my parents, but my relatives who are very, very interested in what my next move is going to be, specifically in this direction.
You mean on women?
On women. So, very, very interested. My parents, honestly, that way I come from a very liberal family. And they have always told me that, you know what, you figure your own shit out.
Niraj, I got to tell you something. No, you know what? As liberal as every family can be, I come from a liberal family, Somesh does. Yeah. And, as liberal as they are, after a certain age, it just starts. It starts and it just goes up in volume. Every time you don't say, like, there's a point now where I have reached by my parents, there's nothing else to talk about. Like everything. Beta, how's career? We don't give a crap. How's your money? We don't give a crap. Shadi kab hai? Wo baat kar pehle.
It goes to a direction where, your parents come with a very sulking face saying, मैं दादा दादी कब बनूंगा?
No, I have reached a point where people have, like, uncles and aunties are like, अरे बेटा तुम्हारे शादी में नाचने का बहुत मन हो रहा है. I'm like, नाचना है ना, नाच. मैं गाना अभी बजाए, तू अभी नाच. It's literally that bad.
I mean, I think that's a very cultural thing. I mean, especially in here. But you know what? I honestly have a very different view now that we're talking about marriage itself. I don't think it's so necessary. And but I don't think this is for this podcast. But honestly, I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
Very true. That's
we
awesome.
won't poke him too much. He's already made it clear. But, I got to say one thing is that, guys, tune in and watch the show. It's already on the air. It's amazing. And it's going to be a wild, wild ride. And we're so happy to have been in interview with Niraj Puran Rao. He's awesome. He's humble. He's absolutely the beacon of humility. He's such a well-rounded individual, and we wish him nothing but the best of luck in his future endeavors and his career. Don't you think, Somesh?
Absolutely.
What a pleasure it's been.
Absolutely. In fact, it's been a pleasure speaking to India's only contestant on The Apprentice, Niraj Puran Rao. The show airs every Saturday at 10 p.m. Guys, on Indian television, on Republic TV. Do not tune in anywhere else. It's Republic TV every Saturday, 10 p.m. Tune in, watch our boy, vote for him, root for him, tag him on all platforms and say, we are one.
Absolutely. You must go watch it. Thank you, Somesh, for telling us the exact time so that people can tune in and watch Niraj Puran Rao. But that being said, we will go into segment number 3 of The Fighting GOAT. And we go into the MMA face-off between Team Chips and Team Kamra. For all those who have been keeping score, Team Chips is up 4-0. Thank you so much, Niraj Puran Rao, for being on the show. But stay tuned, guys. We'll be back with round 3 after this quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere.
Do you know Tamil? Tamil puriyuma? Do your children enjoy great stories that inculcate good values? Hi, I am Ravishankar Balachandran and I host the Storytime Tamil podcast. I am excited to share a short story with great moral values every day. Listen to Storytime Tamil on the IVM Podcast app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to round number 3 of the Fighting GOAT.
Woo-hoo!
This is Arjun, aka Mystic Chips, with the Superhuman Somesh Kamra. Man, what an amazing interview. If you're just tuning in, we just had an amazing interview in our second round with Niraj Rao. It was incredible to hear him speak, so go check that out if you missed it. But now we are coming down to one of the most important segments. I think one of the most important segments of us talking ever, which is
I'm retired hurt. I'm retired hurt.
Which was Team Chips versus Team Kamra, the team challenge, where where we talk about our picks and see who wins and loses. And we are in episode 10, and Team Chips is 5-0 brutally. And it's a best of
it's a best of 99. So we're still waiting.
Cheater. Okay, when I'm 89-0, now you keep saying it's a best of 200. No, but the point is that it's been an incredible 10 episodes we've had, and we love doing this. We love picking fights, and we love choosing our winners and losers. And
we means you. Basically,
it's me. I have the mystic ball. But
man, I've been sulking in the past 10 Sundays. Yeah.
I remember his words exactly. Why do I feel like such a loser on a Sunday?
Well, it's true.
It's true. But but this week we are not going to be taking a little break from the predictions for this week, and this week alone is because sometimes fights are scheduled, but a lot of them don't pan out. So the fight card has still not been decided for the UFC. Although we are going to notify you that there are 2 great fighters. The UFC will have great fights this weekend. I think there's Michelle Watterson fighting on it. There's Ben Rothwell fighting on it. There's Cowboy Cerrone. We still don't know who the opponents are yet. Therefore, we are not making any predictions.
Yes. Well, we have Neil Magny on that card. He's going to be facing Geoff Neal. We have Diego Ferreira coming in with Gregor Gillespie. Ben Rothwell's opponent is a newcomer called Philip Lins that is there. However, to be really honest, as Chips rightly mentioned, the fight card is not finalized. We're just debating because these figures and facts have come to us. Michelle Watterson taking on Marina Rodriguez. Donald Cerrone is on the card. He doesn't know who his opponent is. Big Ben
I don't think Donald Cerrone cares. He's just I want to fight.
Yeah, it could be Donald Cerrone versus Bruce Buffer maybe. I don't know.
It could be anybody. Donald Cerrone versus anybody. He will take on anybody, anytime, anywhere.
Absolutely. But Chips, there's also a Bellator 258 that is coming up. Unfortunately, Bellator doesn't air live in India. However, we have Sergio Pettis taking on Yuan. We have Anthony Johnson, who was supposed to face the beast, Yoel Romero, but Yoel Romero was scrapped from the card.
It's such a pity, na? I mean, that fight had fireworks written all over it. Can you imagine?
All over it,
2 behemoths. I mean, Yoel Romero we don't know his real age. We don't know. Nobody knows his real age. He could be 80, basically. He could be 70, he could be 110. And we're not even joking. This guy looked the same when he was 19, and he's definitely 45 plus today.
Absolutely. However, Anthony Rumble Johnson has a new opponent. 29-year-old Jose Augusto has stepped in last minute to face him. But what about the welterweight division with Michael Venom Page taking on...
Oh, man. I love MVP.
Taking on Derek Anderson. So guys, stay tuned. There are 2 exciting fight cards. You can watch the UFC live on Sony 10-2, Sony 10-3. It's going to come at 5:30 a.m. The Bellator card doesn't come live in India, unfortunately, so we'll have to stay tuned to the internet for the results.
But it's still 9 p.m. Eastern time, and I think it airs. You can catch it on. You can go to Bellator.com, or you can check out any of the online viewing platforms for the same.
Absolutely. So that brings us to the end of episode 10 of an amazing week, because yes, I lost again, but we had Niraj Puran Rao with us, who gave us insights on what is happening at the One Championship Apprentice edition, or the Apprentice One Championship edition, however you want to call it. We also spoke about how GSP and Henzo Gracie were there, man. So dudes, do log in ivmpodcast.com, check out the new website shows.ivmpodcast.com, follow us on our handles, follow Chips.
If you want to follow me on Instagram is Arjun _Chipalkatti, and on Twitter I am at Mystic Chipal.
There's also another handle that's called Sexy Boy.
Oh my God! Please don't follow that. And it doesn't exist. It's more like a handle used to threaten me.
And yes, you can follow me on Twitter, Somesh_Kamra, and on Instagram, Somesh.Kamra. Stay tuned to more live action. We look forward on seeing you next week, same time, same place, only on The Fighting Goats.
Working Monday to Friday glued to your chair making you feel dull? Worry not. Get your 5-minute weekly dose of travel around the world with postcards from nowhere. Join me every Thursday as I explore the strange, obscure, and fascinating parts of the world and bring out facets of travel you may not have thought of before. You can find us on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcast from. Want to learn something new and have a few minutes to spare? Well, then go for the Traveling Professor's Diary, where I, Siddharth Deshmukh, the Traveling Professor, will help you glean from all the insights that I've gained from wherever I've traveled, learned, taught, and repeated. Join me every Tuesday and Thursday on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.